I just finished the 1.3 story in Zenless Zone Zero, and I'm really annoyed with myself. So, when Zenless Zone Zero first came out, I had this idea or theory about what Phaethon's actual goals were. At the time when I made this video, I thought it was kinda dumb. There were a lot of missing details, a lot of conflicting points, and I felt it wasn't worth posting, so it didn't make the cut. Having played the 1.3 story though, I'm kicking myself in the butt for not releasing it. I thought about re-editing it to include the additional details we learned, or maybe just make another video altogether, but I think I'm going to share the entirety of that video right here, mistakes and all. At the end, I'll include some additional discussion points and details that we learned from 1.3 and talk about how the theory has likely evolved. This video is a bit long, but I really suggest you watch it all the way to the end. Keep in mind, this was from when the game first released, so some of what I'll say will sound out of place, but I'll come back later in the video to discuss it a little bit more. So here's the original video unedited. When we are first introduced to them, the Phaethon siblings Belle and Wise appear to be pretty normal. They own the neighborhood video rental store, often go out for noodles, and spend their free time at the arcade, watching movies and playing with cats. The biggest secret they had was that they happened to also work as proxies, guides for those who wish to explore the hollows. Halfway through the story, however, we learn that the siblings are actually working towards an unknown goal, as they are trying to get information on something which might relate to their past, family, or even new Eridu. We don't know at this point what their goal or past actually is, but as I was researching Zenless lore for other videos, I think I might have accidentally stumbled upon something that might give us some insight into that. So in this video, we are going to discuss what this thing they are trying to learn is and how it relates to the overarching story. Before we explore that in more detail, if you want to see more Zenless Zone Zero content, do consider subscribing to the channel. As you might have guessed, this video will have a bunch of spoilers for the lore and story in 1.0, so if you aren't caught up with all 3 chapters of the story, I suggest you clear those off first, or you could just watch my recap video. Shameless plug out of the way, before I get into the theory and what I think is going on here, I first need to talk about a few things that relate to the Phaethon siblings. They might seem random at first, but by the end, I'll bring them all together and hopefully it'll make sense. We first need to talk about the tool that has made the Phaethon siblings so successful at being proxies, the Hollow Deep Dive System, or the HDD. Most proxies use a combination of a bamboo and a pre-programmed map called a carrot to circumnavigate a hollow. Carrots are developed through stitching together information collected on a particular hollow and are prepared prior to an expedition. If the layout of a hollow changes, because that's just what hollows do, the carrot or map becomes less reliable, if not unusable. In addition, because the hollows interfere with communications, normal proxies cannot update their map in real time, let alone communicate with the people they are guiding. This forces the proxy and whoever they are guiding to leave the hollow in order to update the carrot. What makes the Phaethon siblings different is that they are functionally immune to this problem due to the technology they use. The HDD system allows Phaethon to remotely control their bamboo from outside the hollow, and allows them to maintain constant communication. This allows them to update the carrot in real time, as well as guide their clients appropriately, all while being in a secured location. As far as we know, the HDD is a tool that only Phaethon has access to, and they were said to have built it out of ancient technology found in the hollow. It's later revealed that the copyright for the HDD is actually owned by the Helios Research Institute. This becomes important later on, so just keep it at the back of your mind for now. The second thing we need to discuss is the data chip found in the strongbox, or more specifically, what it contained. A little into the story, Phaethon acquires the highly capable Fairy, a Type 3 general-purpose AI. Basically, Fairy is an extremely powerful AI who is capable of collecting data on a citywide scale, access 80% of all electronic equipment, carry out calculations near instantly, and can even develop hollow escape routes in real time, removing the need for a carrot. The combination of Fairy and the HDD allows Phaethon to go beyond the realm of a typical proxy. While we know little about why Fairy was created, we do learn from the story and the Where the Miracle Began trailer that Fairy is one of 4 specialized AI, the other 3 being Ghost, Genie, and Yokai. As part of the trailer, all 4 of these AI were used to hack and access the new Eridu Internet Deep database, a repository of information hidden deep within the internet. The AI was then uploaded to the internet and laid dormant until someone would eventually activate them. Again, we don't know what their true purpose is, but what you need to take away from this is that Fairy is an AI, it was used to hack into a secure government database, and is now in the hands of Phaethon. The last thing I need to bring up before we discuss the theory is related to the weird cutscene we saw right after Fairy was uploaded into Phaethon's system. The black and white cutscene showed us a short glimpse of what appears to be Wise and Belle having a conversation overlooking Hollow Zero. The words, "in the end, it all comes down to this," are briefly seen and rewind, which might indicate we are seeing something that happens in the near future. We also see the words Eridu and "I won't give up" before Hollow Zero seemingly expands rapidly, taking out everything near it. After the Bellerbok storyline, we also learn that the siblings believe that the origin of the sacrificed monster might be related to the thing they are trying to learn about, and it's the main reason they even became proxies in the first place. All of this basically tells us that whatever it is Phaethon is trying to figure out may be related to the Hollows, Ethereals, and perhaps even old Eridu. So far, I've spoken to you about the HDD system, the AI Fairy, and Phaethon's personal goals. What on earth do all these things have to do with each other? I mean, yeah, they are related somewhat, but they seem only loosely connected. Well, each of those topics are actually linked by one common thing: the Helios Research Institute. I'm sure you're confused at the moment. I haven't brought up anything related to the Institute so far, so how are they involved? But as you'll see, many of the things I've spoken about link to this very institute, so much so that it can't be a coincidence. The copyright and likely the creation of the HDD system Phaethon uses is attributed to the Helios Institute. Helios is also known to be working on AI technology, as we see in the Daddy subquest, which, as it happens, is what Fairy is. Coincidentally, the Strongbox Fairy was kept in was retrieved by the Cunning Hares, who mentioned their commission was for a research institute. The founder of Helios, Professor RK, is a void hunter who disappeared into Hollow Zero trying to figure out its secrets, the same Hollow Zero we see in Phaethon's vision. Even the name of the institute itself is related to Phaethon in some way. Helios in Greek mythology is the god of the sun and was the father of, you guessed it, Phaethon. In addition, the moral of the story of Phaethon within mythology relates to those who aspire to that which is beyond their capabilities, which might imply whatever Phaethon is trying to do now might be way over their heads. Plus, the connection between Helios and Phaethon appears even in the trailer where the miracles began. So if all these things link Phaethon with the Helios Institute, how exactly does this tie to their secret goals, and what does it even mean for the story? This is where the theory comes in, and I warn you, it can get a little bit weird. I think that both Wise and Belle's parents used to work for the Helios Research Institute. Perhaps they were lab technicians or high-level researchers, or maybe even investigators working directly with Professor RK. Whatever it is, it's likely that they realized or found the truth behind the Hollows, Ethereals, and the formation of New Eridu, information that the government has worked really hard to hide and suppress. Because of this, they likely either disappeared like Kolida's father or were unalived to keep them quiet. Perhaps before meeting their demise, they left their work and discoveries to their children, who they hope would continue their work. Alternatively, the Phaethon siblings could be in the same position as Kolida was, not knowing what happened to their parents and are now trying to piece things together. It's also possible that the siblings aren't related to the researchers of the Institute at all and have accidentally stumbled across these things during their time as a proxy. An even crazy idea is that maybe the siblings were grown in a lab and purposefully done so to make them the ideal proxy, a human that can access and survive hollows, but that's a bit out there. Regardless of whichever direction is the truth here, I feel that Phaethon's story is one that would lead them to unraveling the mysteries behind New Eridu and its formation, a conspiracy that the government wants to really keep secret. I would even go so far as to suggest that the HDD, the Eous Bangbu, and maybe even Fairy were all planned to end up in the hands of Phaethon at some point, so that they are equipped to find out the truth. Perhaps unlike the Phaethon in mythology who was not ready to face his own challenges, everything so far is to ensure the main characters are able to actually complete their task. Maybe their parents planned everything in advance and facilitated all of this. I mean, how exactly did they even find the HDD parts in the hollows in the first place? And even if it was a purely lucky encounter, how would they know what it is, let alone get it in working order? Either they are incredibly intelligent, which is certainly possible, or they knew what exactly to look for and how exactly to assemble it, which seems more plausible, especially if we consider perhaps someone has left them instructions or schematics. The cutscene we see of Wise and Belle was in front of Hollow Zero and seemed to imply that they had no choice in doing what they had to do. Maybe sometime in the future, at the climax of this story, the Phaethon siblings have irreversibly set off a chain of events that they can no longer get away from. Perhaps they have opened the proverbial Pandora's box, and getting involved directly instead of behind the scenes is the only way forward. I'd like to think that when this moment arrives, the siblings may find themselves needing to enter the hollow for themselves to unearth the truth, and why the main characters in this story is two people. Once this point of no return is reached, one sibling would need to be a hollow raider while the other remains as a proxy. But who knows for sure, and all of this is just speculation on my part. The institute mentioned here could be referring to the White Star Institute or some other institute, and the AI could have been developed by someone else entirely. Obviously, the story has not developed enough yet for any of this to be definitively proven, and I hope that you keep that in mind after having watched this. Nevertheless, as I said before, too many of these things are connected to each other to be mere coincidence, and at the very least, some of the things discussed here likely overlap. Okay, so that was the entire original video. There was a bunch of random stuff there, but also things that seemingly have turned out to be true. In that theory, I had indeed speculated that Belle and Wise had some connection to the Helios Institute, but where I had it wrong was that their parents had worked there, and that fairy could have been a product of their research as well. While the fairy idea has not technically been proven, the parent one isn't necessarily inaccurate. What we learned at the end of 1.3 was that the HDD, Eous, and everything the Phaethon siblings knew was taught to them by their teacher, Senior Research Director Carol Arna. Based on what Belle says, however, not only was she their teacher, she also raised them, meaning she was functionally their adoptive parent. I had guessed this because it didn't make sense that the siblings knew so much about this technology despite being rather young. I had also guessed that they were interested in Hollow Zero to eventually enter it, but we only learn of why in 1.3. It seems that while most in New Eridu believes their teacher was the primary instigator behind the fall of Old Eridu City, Phaethon believes otherwise. This ties back to the possibility of the government likely trying to hide what actually happened, as like I mentioned, New Eridu was founded under rather suspicious circumstances. It also links one of the Void Hunters, Professor Arche, into all of this. I'm fairly confident, given Arche is said to be the founder of the Helios Academy, that they are delving into Hollow Zero right now for the same reasons the siblings are, to find the truth behind what happened. We know he was searching for some truth, but we didn't know what that truth was. Perhaps given this new context, he is looking into what exactly happened in order to clear the names of his previous colleagues and subordinates. In addition, before Miyabi interrupted them, the siblings mentioned that they knew their teacher was innocent and seemed to have a very strong reason to believe that was the case. So perhaps they saw something, found classified information, or were even directly involved in the research the Institute was doing to know that something like this couldn't have happened without outside intervention or outright sabotage. If they were involved with the research, it also explains why they are so familiar with the HDD and Eous. Finally, at the conclusion of the 1.3 story, Phaethon starts to suspect whether the sacrifice monster might have something to do with Helios Academy. All this still makes me believe that Hollow Zero was purposefully triggered by the same people currently acting as the government of New Eridu. It was nothing more than a bid to take power in the past, and today is just a way to keep the status quo in check. Of course, it could be that there is some other shadow organization pulling the strings here, but that's likely something we'll learn of much later in the story. Now, given the way this video is structured, I'm sure some of you will be a bit suspicious about whether I'm telling the truth here. Maybe I just wrote all of this in hindsight and recorded it only after 1.3, but truthfully, I did make this video way back in August and even have the raw recording with the date, but I don't think I need to go so far as to prove it or anything. It's fine if you don't believe me, it's not really important to the theory as a whole. I just got excited that this idea ended up turning out the way that it did, so I wanted to share the original idea with additional thoughts after playing 1.3, and that's what this video is. Maybe in the future I'll post all the dumb videos that never made the cut onto a member section or something. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. That aside, I hope you found this video overall entertaining, and if you did, do consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and as usual, have a nice day.